Hello and welcome to another episode of Don't Shit on the Bus. I'm your host, Adam Elmakias, tuning in all the way from Los Angeles, California, and I am happy and excited as per usual about today's episode. Today's episode is a different format than usual, but I didn't do it at first because I wanted to. I just did it out of necessity. But in retrospect, I'm very excited for this new format. And it's nice because for the past year or so, we've just been doing me and Neil with one guest or two guests, but we haven't kind of had multiple guests on to tell stories. And my idea / thought process behind this was to kind of imitate that vibe you get in the back lounge of a bus. And I know I go over some of this with some of our guests, so this is going to be repeated. But, you know, after a show, you get on the bus, you go in the back lounge, you hang out with your friends, you have a beer, and you get to talk about the stupid shit you did that day or the cool thing that happened. And going into this, I was thinking, hey, let's do embarrassing stories. But then as I actually started talking to some of our guests, I realized that, you know, not everybody remembers their embarrassing stories. Some people block them out. I, myself, have so many, it would be impossible to forget, but it was nice hearing from some of my friends. Today, we're going to hear from Loni, Casey, Tanner, and Michelle. All amazing people, all people I've met and toured with. Just kidding. I have never met Michelle, but we have spoken online many a times, and she's very kind. And I think all of these stories will bring you some enjoyment. They're pretty fun. So I hope you have a good time getting to know my friends. And as always, thank you so much to the Patreons for making this episode ad-free and, you know, paying Connor because he's the producer. He edits all this together, and he is a trooper. He is even doing this one while he's home visiting his family in Michigan. So thank you, Connor, for being the badass you are. I am very thankful for you. I look forward to the day where I can be your full-time job. I swear we'll make it happen, my guy. All right. Anyway, our new Patreons this week, we always give them a shout out. So shout out to Rafi. I think that's how you say it, Rafe or Raf. I'm not sure. Regardless, thank you so much for your support, my guy. And look forward if you want to join the Patreon. It's on our website. Sign up. Videos and articles every week are included to anybody for free, but this Patreon kind of just helps pay for everything. And if you want to become more a part of the podcast, leave some questions weekly. We try to integrate those when we see appropriately or just contribute ideas on what the podcast should be about. I'm all ears, man. I don't participate very much in conversation, but I love hearing what you have to say. So I'll see you on the Discord. All right, with that being said, I was trying to think about, hey, do I have any quick, embarrassing stories that I could share on this podcast? Because everybody else shared embarrassing stories. And I think I have one. So this one's a really, really casual, embarrassing story, but this kind of thing I'm sure we can all relate to. And it's happened to me more times than I wish to admit. And for me, the hardest part about working in this industry is the amount of people I work with that kind of intimidate me. You know, you're working with these people who are on stage, artists, are talking to people all day. They're professionals at conversing. And in some ways, that's a good thing. But in some ways, it can be, you know, like I said, intimidating. You know, these people are very good at this. And I remember one time back at Leeds Festival, I was working for the festival in the UK, and I was on the main stage. So I was stage left, which means I was where the band goes right before they get on stage. And one band had just finished, and coming up next was Panic at the Disco. And I was hanging out with that band who had just finished, talking to them. And, you know, when a band's about to go on, you see them and they're walking from the distance to the stage, and they go up a ramp, and then they get to stage left where we are. And as this artist is coming up, I'm like, oh, I know this artist. And for me, I'm always wondering, all right, I know this person, but do they remember me? And I try to kind of start from a place of like, oh, hey, how's it going? And then give them, you know, the kind of opportunity to say, oh, hey, Adam, or see if they remember me. Because I know, although they might be a prominent person in my life, in my mind, I might be just somebody else they met, and that's okay. And it's hard to know where to draw the line. Who did I stand out with? Was I just a person in the crowd? I don't know. Anyway, this person walking up was Brendan Urie, who is singer of Panic at the Disco. And I was like, you know, personally, I'm a big fan, and I've known / seen Brendan around for years, you know, 10 years now, maybe. And we have a lot of mutual friends. Anyway, that's beside the fact. He's walking up the stage, coming up, and he starts waving. And I'm like, oh shit, he's waving at me. So I wave back, obviously, because that's a nice thing to do. And as he gets closer, I go in for a hug, and he walks right around me and goes to the person behind me that was from the band I just played in and gives them a hug. And I was like, oh shit, that's kind of embarrassing. But I don't think anybody noticed. But it was one of those times I was like, all right, man, if it's, you know, I was stoked, but you know, it just happens. And I'm sure we've all had that happen in some part of our lives at some point. You know, I forget if there's probably a term for it, like miscommunicated wave or something like that. Anyway, For what it's worth, we did say hi after that moment. And it was a great shoot. I love shooting that set. Shout out to Panic at the Disco's team for letting me shoot from stage, even though I was just working for the festival. All right. So that is my contribution for this week's Back Lounge Hang. I don't know what we should call this episode. If you have any thoughts, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I check those at least once a week. Otherwise, you can shoot me an email or talk about it in the Discord. Okay, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Don't Shit on the Bus. I will see you, well, I'll hear from you in a little bit, but I'll see you next week. Cool. Well, Loni, welcome to Don't Shit on the Bus. I'm trying a new concept out here today, and I'm very honored that you agreed to do it with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's the holidays, so we kind of had to get a little bit creative on how to create a full, getting somebody for a full hour of time right now. Not quite the most easy thing to do because we got family, we got friends, we got life. But my idea for this podcast is to kind of emulate the back lounge hang that you might find on tour at the end of the day. When you go back there, the day's over, you have a beer, you hang out with your friends, and you tell stories about things that happened. Like, I don't know, maybe I tripped over a cable today, or I don't know. Did you do that on tour, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've had plenty of instances like that where you're like watching another band or something and you're side stage or trying to sneak up, being a drummer. I try to go like get a video of my drum buddies drumming, and then I'm not paying attention. I turn around and walk back and I'll pull a cable, like a speaker cable, out of one of the cabs. So stage left guitar is completely gone.
And there's nothing better than finishing your day off and then kind of comparing stories with your friends. You know what I mean? Like you sit down, you're like, here's what I did today that really sucked and I learned a lot from, or I don't know. Do you know that vibe is kind of what I'm going for?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that would be cool. I've known you for a long time, so I thought it would be great to start with friends, and maybe eventually I can attract some people I don't know quite as well. But for people who haven't met you before, which is probably the majority of the people listening to this, like I think we met initially when you were maybe drum teching for Of Mice and Men, but maybe just to not qualify, but just explain to people your touring experience. Like, what have you done work-wise in the industry?
Jeez. Okay.
Sorry to put you on the spot, man.
I'm like going way back. So my first touring gig, I think, was in 2009. Was when I first started touring. It was with a band called Of Machines out of Georgia. And on my first tour I knew Tino from San Diego Hangs and all the bands and stuff, but it was Of Machines opening, Tides of Man, Of Mice and Men, which is where I ended up meeting those guys really well. Dance Gavin Dance and Emerosa.
What a tour.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy.
That's awesome.
I think it was Squash the Beef.
That's the name of the tour, Squash the Beef. Did some people on those tour like not get along and they were like, all right, this is proof we get along?
Yeah, well, you remember the whole Johnny thing, like back and forth between Dance Gavin and Emerosa?
I can think back to my teens. It's come to me a little bit.
But yeah, so I was with the Machines, and then we parted ways, and then Tino hit me up and was like, hey, if you're down, like you're the homie and you're like super good at what you do with drums and whatnot, I would love to have you back in my corner. So yeah, I was working at Target at the time and was like, yo, I'm out. So toured with those guys for a while, was with them for a few years, and then I got a playing gig with Let Live.
And playing gig, for people who are listening and maybe aren't in the industry or didn't infer it, Loni drum teched for Of Mice and Men, but then he was in the band Let Live, which is, yes. That's playing gig or a tech gig. Would you call it a tech gig, working gig? I don't know.
Tech gig, yeah.
Tech gig. Okay, cool. You can continue. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to define it for people who are listening.
You're good. So I was teching for Of Mice, and at the end of a Warped Tour, I think it was a Warped Tour, Jason from Let Live contacted me asking me if I'd go audition to drum for Let Live.
Awesome.
And I ended up getting that spot, and we joined that band. We toured together for 3 years, and then that band came to an end. And then I kind of sat for like a year trying to find something to do. I actually enjoyed taking the time off.
Just to chill, take some deep breaths.
It was really nice. Like it goes two different ways in touring. Like you get the guys that are like, I have to know what's going on. So like you look at this app master tour that basically tells you what you're going to be doing for the next 30 days or 2 months or whatever. You have your schedule from start to finish, travel times when you're getting in town. So you can set up all your hangs and, what free time you're going to have and off days and all that. And then there's the guys that are like, just wake up and like, hey, where are we at? Okay, cool.
Just figuring it out as you go, just living in the moment.
Yeah, you wake up, you roll out of the bunk and you look out the front lounge window and you try to identify where you are by what parking lot you're in.
What tall building you can see from your bunk or from the bus window. It's like, oh, I know that
Exactly.
parking ramp. Yeah, I know where I'm at.
So when Let Live split, I spent about a good 4 or 5 months just kind of being a bum, just like really knowing that like something would come around, but I wasn't actively looking to get back into it. And then I get a call one day from Miguel's management, this guy named Narlos. He was the tour manager at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, I just got referred to you by 2 different people saying that you're a great drum tech and we need a guy. Are you open to come out and work for Miguel? And he gave me some stats on the tour and I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. Literally hung up. I talked to him. I was like, let me talk to the wife because we have something going on. Hung up the phone. As I'm talking to her, got an email from another camp that was like, hey, we need a stage manager drum tech. Are you available? And I was like, oh, crap.
You're like, I got bargaining power all of a sudden. I can go to one person and be like, I don't know if you want me. These other guys are offering me this much.
Yeah, right. So fast forward, I ended up taking the Miguel gig as a tech and drum teching. And then after about a year or so of that, RJ, which is one of the best dudes ever, he would be a cool guy. I should introduce you guys.
RJ on here? All right, RJ.
He was in the process of transitioning to American Idol. He's the house drummer for American Idol now.
Oh, cool.
And he threw my name in as a replacement for him for Miguel.
Oh, wow. So going for another playing gig.
Yes.
I got my terms down.
You got it. You already know this stuff.
Yeah, we got it.
So I'm still doing that. I still drum for Miguel. And then in the downtime, I've done stage managing for a group called LSD, which is Labyrinth, Sia, and Diplo.
Yeah.
So I stage managed them for a while. We did some TV stuff. And then I stage managed Major Lazer stateside and over in Europe. And then I drum tech for One Republic occasionally.
That's so wild. You've got all different kinds of gigs.
All over, man. Like I said, just trying to stay busy, do what I can, when I can, while I can.
Hey, I respect that. Well, that kind of sets us up nice for today. Before we get into your story, I kind of wanted to discuss, I was thinking like when I ask people what story they can tell, or when people listen and hear the story that they are telling, I thought like a really important aspect that I think you'll agree with me on is that you got to make sure that the story is kind of your story to tell. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying, right. I'm not trying to direct you right now. I'm just trying to teach the audience about the appropriate type of stories you can tell in the music industry. Cause you're quite private with a lot of things that happen.
Right. You're around a lot of people all the time. And even if there's like little slip ups and accidents and stuff, like you don't want to go like burn your best friend down, for
you throw them under the bus.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a right time and right place for everything.
Yeah. I think like I don't know. If I ever meet somebody who's in the industry and they tell a story that's specifically about an artist they work with and they use the names and they talk to somebody in public, I'm almost like, I don't know. You can learn a lot from the way a person talks about other people that they probably talk about you that same way. And it always blows my mind. I'm like, how are you in the industry of privacy being public about other people's private stuff? It blows my mind. So, I was telling everybody, make sure you tell a story about yourself, but I know that that's what you're going to do. But let's get into your story. I'm here for story time. Back lounge with Loni.
Back lounge with Loni. So we're in the back lounge right now, sipping beers, playing Mario Kart.
Yeah. We're playing Mario Kart. It's just me and you, maybe another person there. You're like, yo, this thing just happened to me today. What was that thing?
So the first thing that comes to mind, oh my God, this is so embarrassing on my end.
I'm ready for it.
I'm reliving it right now, laughing. So the title of this story should be Punishing.
Oh, yes. Are you the Punisher or the punishee?
I am the Punisher.
This is amazing. I'm so ready to hear this.
I'm no longer a Punisher, but I learned from this exact moment.
This is your coming of punish.
Yeah. So, and I've since talked to the guy and he's like, dude, I don't even remember that.
Oh my God.
He lives in San Diego now, which is funny.
It's weird how somebody like you's like big moment or highlight moment can be somebody else's non-existent moment. It's just so wild how that works. Interaction can be so different. All right, let's hear it. Set us up.
Okay. So we are I think we're in like Albuquerque, New Mexico, or something like that. We're on tour. I was working for Mice and Men at the time, and I believe As I Lay Dying was headlining. And so we're at this venue somewhere. The inside of the venue looks like an Olive Garden, like how you picture an Olive Garden looking. Like there's like paintings of like windows with like little lattice all over the place and like vines. And so I'm like, this is kind of weird, but whatever. And I am outside hanging out with a couple of the guys as we're loading in. And out of As I Lay Dying's bus comes Adam from Killswitch. They're just talking to his buddies. And I'm like, damn, that's Adam. That dude's a fucking legend. Like he's the best. And I didn't say anything to him. I was just like, he was like walking by and I just like, okay, I'm working, nothing to see here.
Were they on the tour?
No, he just came out to hang out with the dudes.
Okay, cool.
I guess he flew in to hang out with them, and then he was doing something out there, and then wherever his road was going, he was just there with us for a couple of days. So anyway, we do the show. We're packing up the trailer. Headlining band is finishing up. They're pretty much done and packing up. And word gets around through the band and crew that there's a bar down the street, and it's a rock bar.
Ooh, rock bar.
Yep. They're inviting everyone that was a part of the show into the bar for free. Obviously, show your laminate and you're good.
Yeah.
So we get in there, we check it out. We get there kind of early. There's not really anyone there, but we're like, crew party. We can get it started. We start playing some music on the jukebox and stuff. Then everyone starts rolling in, like all the headlining crew, and like some of the Mice guys show up kind of late. And then it's a party. Everyone's kind of in their own group, like with band, and then it kind of meshes a little bit. At this point, I feel like I was still relatively new to like tour etiquette.
Okay, you're just getting out there.
Even though I have been on tour for a while, but like the first tour, big tour was like Warped Tour. So it was like everyone's just close and you're in everyone's business. Everyone's in your business. It kind of is what it is, But on club tour and stuff like that, it could be a little different. People like to kind of stay back, do their thing. But anyway, we're drinking. Drinks have been had. Then I see Adam come in again and he's hanging out and I'm like, dude, I got to say what's up to him. Like,
this is the moment.
He's so sick. And I was like, I'm just going to chill. And so a couple more drinks were had.
Yeah.
And at this point, somebody had gone in. I think the guy that actually owned the bar started playing some Killswitch stuff.
Not awkward.
Not awkward. Never awkward when you go to a place and they start playing your music, never awkward.
I looked up the venue. It's the Sunshine Theater.
How did you find it?
I have the internet, and I also, I looked it up. It was in 2011. It's a Sunshine Theater, and I was looking for rock bars. There's one called Rocksteady. There's a Launch Pad, but I wasn't sure.
It was walking distance from the...
Yeah, those are on the same street. Regardless, it might not even be around, but Sunshine Theater, look it up if you guys want to. I have been there. It is a very weird venue. It's like an auditorium almost.
Yeah. Are you a tour manager, by the way? So anyway, we're drinking, we're hanging out, I wouldn't say dancing because it's all rock music, so we're like headbanging in our chairs and stuff. They play one of my favorite songs, and of course everyone's singing, like When Darkness Falls.
Was that End of Heartache?
Yep. I remember vaguely seeing this video when Howard was in the band about how Adam D introduced one time when they played that song, and he's like, this next song is about when Howard was skateboarding and fell on the ground and busted his ass. It's called When Darkness Falls. And I thought that was just the funniest thing ever. So of course, right when the chorus comes on, I like roll over drunk to Adam and I tap him on the shoulder and he turns around and I'm like, when darkness falls. And he just kind of looks at me and just kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And then I was like, oh shit. Nope. And I just cowered away just really quick. And I'm pretty sure when I turned back, I started walking away and I looked back at where my group was and it was like Tino and a bunch of the Mice guys. And Tino had this look like, oh no,
So what had you done? Because like, honestly, to somebody who's maybe not in music, it doesn't sound like a big deal. Like, hey, you just were drunk and you tapped some dude on their shoulder. Like, what is the issue here? Or did I just cut you off in the middle of your story? That could also be the thing.
No. So I don't know. I wonder if, I think maybe, it was kind of one of those things, like you said, it's awkward that, you go to a place and they acknowledge that you're there and they start playing music. your music per se. And then, no one had like really come up and done anything. And I kind of just came up kind of like doopy, kind of drunk, and was like probably slurring and was like tapping him on the shoulder and started like singing the lyrics with him and stuff. And like,
your like first impression with him wasn't your favorite impression you've ever made on somebody that you look up to, right? Somebody like you could argue is your idol, and you're drunk falling around him, which is embarrassing.
And it was so embarrassing. And, like I said, walking back towards Tino, he was like, had this look like, ooh.
Yeah, like, what'd you just do?
Yeah. But honestly, I don't think, like, looking back at it now, and like I said, I haven't spoke with him. Like, we hang out actually whenever we're both in town. Hasn't been much as of late, but before, pandemic and all that stuff, we'd go get pizzas and beers and stuff. But I just think maybe at that point, I just kind of A, showed up out of nowhere. B, he was kind of like, oh, they're playing my music. This is so awkward. C, this like drunk dude comes up and I'm like, barely, I don't know. Like I don't know where I was exactly, but I probably just
somewhere between sleeping and waking up.
yeah. It's like a flickering light on the highway. It's like, where are we going? So yeah, it was probably like, I don't know if it was like kind of awkward for him, or it could have even been like he turned around and kind of like looked like, hey, what's going on? And I just took that as a, oh shit, and just walked away. I could have prematurely cut our conversation short for first experience. So I go back and the guys are like, oh, what happened? And I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I need another shot. And I think I was drinking Jaeger at the time. So it was great.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so wild to think like embarrassing stories don't have to be like my pants fell off in the middle of a show, or it doesn't have to be that crazy. It can just be like, I made the wrong decision at the wrong time in the wrong place, and I probably should have just played it a little more cool. And those things feel like, I'm trying to imagine, like that probably felt like the end of your world at that moment. You're like, ah, shit, I fucked up.
It felt like the end of the world, and it felt like it lasted like an hour.
Oh, I bet. Just
that exact transition was like, it was like a set. It was like 45 minutes. Like the whole lead up and walking over and then coming back, and like the longest walk back from that, I was like, oh crap.
And so what was the lesson you learned? Well, and how did you, I mean, like you could have done that and walked away and been like, that guy's a dick. He should have broed down with me. But instead you went back and you had the thought to look at yourself and be like, maybe I did the wrong thing. And how did you change moving forward? Like in the future, maybe this scenario happened again and you handled it differently.
I've been in that situation before with like, plenty of people who are, I consider now my friends, that, we're in the industry together. And I usually just, I don't come in so hot. If anything, I'll be like, dude,
you read the room.
Yeah. You're a monster on the drums, or I don't understand how you play what you play on guitar, and just small talk and like
treat them like people.
Yeah, exactly. Cause honestly, someone told me this way, I used to work at Guitar Center and before I started touring. And one of the best things that my manager at the time told me was, when you work here, you will encounter celebrities, and then you will encounter actual celebrities. And I was like, I don't understand what you mean by that. And he goes, long story short, people want to be treated like rock stars, and rock stars want to be treated like people.
Ooh, I like that. That's cool. I've never heard that.
Yeah. So, I'm sure, there's a percentage of people that like want to be on a pedestal all the time, but it's not everyone. Like when you get home and you're doing your thing, like you're not going to go to your local grocery store and be like, guess what I was doing for the last 40 days.
Yes. You know what it reminds me of? And I'm sure you can think back to this. When bands would first start touring on a local level and they would wear their laminates all the time. You do like your first national tour and you'd wear your laminates when you got home because you were like, this is cool. And then you're like, wait, why?
I am guilty. I am so guilty. I have laminates. The tour was like 2 weeks long, which the laminate doesn't get destroyed in 2 weeks. And they're like peeling apart, like sun faded, because I just wore them like in between every tour. And even on the next tour that I went on, I would still be wearing it and just clip my next lammy on.
This is my cred. I've traveled before with bands. Now you know.
Yeah, I wore mine on my neck sometimes too.
Like, I know, you got to make sure you don't want somebody to miss it. Yeah.
You see this. Yeah.
This is this is my qualification.
Yeah. It's shiny as hell. I know you see it.
Yeah. It's to be specific, it's laminated, and, or some of the first ones just weren't, they're just shit. Yeah. That is, That is a good story. I appreciate you sharing that because, I mean, definitely sharing an embarrassing story isn't always everybody's favorite, but we got to talk about when we learn. So when other people, there's going to be people who meet the person they look up to and everything in their body is going to tell them, go fucking be my version of cool in front of them. But just be normal. Yeah. Just be normal or don't be normal, depending on what your normal is.
Yeah. Yeah. It always depends. I mean, I've got, if I just like scroll through my memory right now, I'm pretty sure there's been shows that like I've messed up on parts because I've had to pee so bad on stage. I think we were in, oh my God, I was with Let Live and we were somewhere pretty sketch.
So Europe, probably.
Somewhere in Europe, yeah. They're like, don't leave the venue. Everything is upstairs. Catering is upstairs. Dressing rooms are upstairs. You'll be escorted down. It was like a really weird, it was a weird vibe. Like, but anyway, like the show was great.
Sketchy shows are the best.
Yeah. But I just went downstairs, we get on stage, we start playing. And I think we were playing Mother, which is like probably Let Live's biggest song. And I, for the life of me, could not think of the music, even though it just happens naturally. I kept thinking I have to, like, I'm looking around, like, is there a bucket or a water bottle or something? And there was like an area behind me. I was on an elevated stage. I seriously, like, at the end of that song, I literally grabbed Jason and I was like, stall, I'm going to pee my pants right now. And I literally turned around, jumped off the back of the riser and was like looking under the stage. I was like, Gatorade bottle, perfect. And like,
oh yeah, because they have the big top openings. It's a lot easier to pee in than a water bottle. Gatorade bottle, vitamin water, those are prime pee bottles.
Yeah, so that was a lifesaver there. I could have been really bad.
You ever just pee your pants? Because I mean, nobody would know. It would suck. You're I don't know. Your pedal might get slippery, but
I mean, yeah, probably your pedal would get slippery. Your rug would just smell like.
Aside from all the other downsides of obviously peeing your pants that most people know about.
Yeah, your throne, drum throne is just wrecked. Yeah, no, other than that, I can't say I've ever peed my pants.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you've made a fool of yourself in ways we all have. I feel like I've had my fair share, far more recent than I would like to admit, of me coming in too hot. Then peeing your pants, I'm happy to know that you have not done that. But I look forward, if you ever do that in the future. I know you're not, you do have a play. If you ever do that in the future, please come back and tell us a story. Don't do it just for the show. But if it happens naturally, I'm
not doing it for the gram. I'm not that kind of guy.
All right. Well, thank you, Lonnie, so much for coming on here for a little bit. I'm excited. You're the first person we've got on for this compilation episode or back lounge hang. I don't know what to call it yet, but I'm excited to hear everybody else's story. And who knows, maybe somebody else will pee in their pants. I'm not quite sure.
That could be pretty good.
All right. Last question, real quick. Shower shoes or no shower shoes when you're on tour? What's your vibe?
Ooh, yeah, definitely some sandals.
All right, cool. Now I know. I'll put you in that category.
Best case scenario, I mean, if the place is really nice,
yeah,
then maybe not. But if that's like if you're the first one in the shower.
Okay.
If you're like the last one in, like crew, you're never the first one in the shower. You got like shower
unless you're doing it wrong.
Flooded. Unless you're doing it wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, shower shoes for me.
All right. And on that note, we will call it a day. Okay. Welcome. We've already done 2 guests, so I'm not doing the intro, but we got Tanner. He's our 3rd guest here, assuming we do these in order. And if you don't know Tanner, he's been on the podcast before. Welcome back, Tanner.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam. What a treat.
Wow. Don't get too enthusiastic all at once, my guy.
It's just something that's in my blood.
I vibe. Well, I'm excited to have you on here today. I appreciate you taking time out of your holiday time off, maybe forced time off via COVID, but I appreciate you sharing a story. And I don't know. Tell us a little bit about your story before we get into it here. What's the vibe? What are we doing today?
Well, most of my stories are like not that cool. Like you had to have been there, or like, ooh, that's NC-17, or like, oh, that's. Thankfully, the 2 stories that I can think of are like stories I'll be telling my grandkids type of thing, big career, hilarious stories. If I wrote a book, these would be in here.
I'm going to write a book and then use your stories. Okay.
That's fine. Just
credit you.
Couple of Ethereum and we could call it a day.
I'll throw you some ETH. Why can't people tell, like, serious question, not like challenging or not like why do people in the music industry, or maybe you specifically, just speak for yourself, not like to tell the inappropriate stories, or the ones that are like a little more risque, I guess you could say.
Well, that's what's funny. If me and you were hanging out, I would tell you the riskiest stories and I would tell you. But if it's me on the internet, if it's me with a gun to my head, no, I will not be telling you the story of me, running around a Canadian parking lot at 22 years old, too much Xanax and whiskey in my system, and I don't know where my bus is. That's probably not the story I would jump to first. No, that's another funny story, though, is long story short. 22 years old, and then I wake up in a blackout and I look up and I realize I'm so nowhere close to my bus. And I look at where my bus is and it's like 2 floors up, hundreds of yards away. And I'm like, oh, I'm fucked. And then I blacked out again and I woke up in my bandwagon bus.
Wow. Who are you with?
You were on that tour.
Okay, I know who it is then.
Yeah, no, I was in Chiodos. No one can be thrown under that bus. No one can be thrown under the bus in that story except me. There was no one to blame.
Yeah, the other thing that people take into consideration when you're telling stories, and I've talked about it with every guest. So if you're listening to this podcast all at once, which you probably are, you probably heard me talk about this every 10 minutes, but you can't tell or nobody wants to tell somebody else's story,
Yeah. And I'm not going to be like, oh my God, this one time I watched this guy do that.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But also, how touring goes. It's like if someone comes up to you and goes, hey, tell me a story. You're like 15 years pass through my mind and I have to pick one that's appropriate or something like that. It's hard.
Well, I'm glad we had a little bit more time than me jumping up and asking you at a restaurant or something. So I'm ready for story time, Tanner. I did not bring s'mores, but I will make some tonight and replay this. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I kind of ended on a climate. It didn't sound like an ending.
Cheat. Yeah, I could use a s'more. I feel like, since the beginning of me doing music, pretty much every one of my stories of joining a band has been pretty movie, or at the very least podcast book worthy, because it's just been comically stressful and comically inconvenient in terms of convenience or inconvenient. But yeah, so when I joined In Flames, I got a call from their current drummer. I was in England, and coincidentally, I was with their guitar tech. We were both working of Mice and Men, and Greg, their In Flames' guitar tech, was filling in. So coincidentally, I'm getting offered a job that has one of their crew members with me. And the first thing I did when I got the call was run in the venue and see if I could play their fastest song, which is Take This Life. So I immediately started playing Take This Life, just a couple seconds of it with my headphones in. And I just hear someone yell, nope, that's not it.
Who was it?
It's their guitar tech. He's already spying on me, telling me, no, dude, you can't do this. And I pretty much already got offered it.
Really, really quick, going and playing the fastest song, the thought process there is, if I can do this, I can do everything, right? Because that's the most difficult one. All right.
So I went in and I was like, oh, wow. And mind you, I had zero adrenaline, zero warm up. I just figured, okay, let's see if I can do this real quick. And that's honestly been how in the majority of my gigs that I've been given or offered is I can't really even do it. And I just figure it out. Thank God. So obviously it moved past, the guitar tech was not the gatekeeper for that situation. Thank God. So I got home and I started learning songs. And the night before my birthday, I was celebrating and I got a call saying, hey, you didn't get it, actually. And I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, we gave it to a Swedish guy. Sorry, man. Thank you for dedicating the past 2 months of your life to this potential thing. But no, we're going to choose a Swede instead. It's like, oh, well, there goes my life. Okay. And I had all these other gigs planned. I was like, okay, switch over to this. Cool. And then I get a call 3 weeks later, a month later. Hey, we messed up. Do you still want to do it? I guess, but now at this point, I really need to know if I'm going to do it because I can't handle the adrenaline rush and the adrenaline dump and the tears and sadness that follows. So they officially chose to fly me out. I now had about a week to learn 30 songs instead of the month that I would have had.
Because they told you 3 weeks late, right?
Yep. Okay. So now, and there's deadlines and shows that are happening. So I am rush learning all these songs because I didn't know any In Flames except for maybe one. So now I'm rushing all these songs, and I'm realizing I can't physically play this stuff. It's like they asked me to fight at heavyweight, and I'm realizing, oh God, I actually can't box at all. And now I'm about to fight this guy who's going to kill me. So I went up to the LAX, and it's okay. It's time to fly to Sweden, not a casual flight, to join the biggest opportunity of your entire life. And they probably haven't even seen your tryout video, and you have to impress them. So I get to LAX and, have a couple drinks, get on the plane. And I realize that my anxiety is so bad over this that I'm awake for the entire 14-hour flight, and my heart is pumping through my chest, and I was unable to even breathe. I'm just sitting there. And the closer I'm getting to this country, I'm realizing, oh my God, what did I do to myself?
Like, how are we going to pull it off this time, Tanner?
And thankfully I have 15 years of experience of doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's that small crutch to lean on, but also in the forefront of my thoughts, I'm worried so bad. So I wake up in Sweden, got to head over to the practice space. I get over to the practice space and it is the size of Costco. There is multiple rooms. There is a hangout room. There's a jam room. And then there's this huge other warehouse where there's a full-on team of people building our light setup. And this was all about 98% more intense professional and production than I've ever had in my entire life.
Because they're big there, right? They're really big.
Yeah, we were in the midst of the epitome of In Flames was right in there. And so on top of the fact that I already feel inadequate, our tour manager, who is just hazing me for being the new guy. So I'm not already feeling welcomed whatsoever. Everyone's super casual and I am just about to implode. I get on the drums and we start playing. It's okay. A little awkward, obviously, because it has to be a little awkward in the beginning. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we get to the song that I physically can't play. Start playing it. Unfortunately for me, the adrenaline didn't help my physicality at all. And now I'm looking at the guitarist like, oh my God, what's happening? And we stop the song. And he goes, what's going on? I'm like, oh, it's the pedals. There's something wrong with these pedals. And these pedals I've had for 10 years at that point. Those pedals are my little brother. Those pedals I know very well. Nothing wrong with those pedals.
Yeah. It was just your out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's this gear. It's this gear's fault. I don't know. So they go, okay, to my drum tech, Dominic, you're going to drive to the music store and get Tanner new pedals. Now, Dominic, my drum tech, is on a 3-hour round trip drive.
Oh my God.
To buy me new pedals. So I'm waiting 3 hours to potentially have it still not work. And still, he could have came back and I could have just kept messing up. And it would have been like, okay, now I'm 14 hours away from home. I'm thousands and thousands of miles away from home. We're playing in front of 100,000 people in 6 days, and this guy can't do it. So he brings the pedals, we tweak them out, and I start playing a little better. And I look over at the original drummer who flew out as well to make sure everything goes well. And he looks at me and he mouths, relax.
Oh, man. That's fucking cool.
And I look down at my drums. I'm like, okay. And that's what I've realized through playing for In Flames is if I just relax physically, everything's a lot easier to play instead of tensing up and just my body freaking out from the tenseness. It's number one thing I have to remind myself all the time: relax. So I started playing it and I played it fine. Wow. I looked over at him and he was like, yep, you got this, buddy.
Damn, that's fucking cool.
Mind you, first week I'm in Poland and I'm playing that song and I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. Oh my God, my body and my calf muscle pulls.
After this?
Yeah, this is after this. This is the first week of shows. This is like maybe my second show.
Were you just not stretching appropriately, or is it just a thing that happens sometimes?
No, I didn't know how to warm up at that point. I was just like, seat of my pants. Let's hope for the best. All right, let's go jam. Without realizing there's a full process I have to get into to be able to physically achieve this performance. And thankfully, because of this band, I figured out how to do it. And it's, again, just like most of my other gigs, it's only made me become a better drummer when the core of me technically is a lazy little guy, and it's made me a more go-getter. And, it's definitely improved my drumming and improved my capabilities of teaching myself things.
Yeah, your ceiling is just so much higher. So I can't imagine. It makes everything else seem so much easier, just relatively. And
yeah, that and like challenging yourself and like knowing that you can achieve cheesily enough, like the impossible, like knowing that, going through something like that and like being able to understand that you actually can do this kind of stuff is like, it definitely helps.
And I think actually, maybe this didn't occur to you, or maybe it did and you didn't say it, but I thought one of the parts of that story that you probably trained for in your life or were prepared for without even realizing it was when they initially had called you and said, hey, you didn't get it. I feel like your reaction to that is key on why you did get it. Because if you would have said, and I'm walking myself in the darkness here. I don't know how you reacted, but I'm assuming it wasn't "fuck you, I hate you." It was probably like, "Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really sorry to hear." Like, I'm sure you're bummed, but I bet you weren't mean. Like, how did you react to that first time?
I mean, in any instance with our business, you can never be mad unless like you got fucked over or something happened. Like I can't be mad. I was mad. Like I was mad because I was already given it. I thought it was mine already. That, and so once I got home from that tour and I got offered In Flames, I went to Hawaii with my family, and the entire trip to Hawaii, I was making my family listen to In Flames because I had to study. I would wake up, go to the beach only to practice their songs. So it was my second time, thankfully, but this whole trip with my family, second time for me in Hawaii, was dedicated to In Flames. And then I got home and was like, they're like, "No, you didn't get it." I'm like, oh my God. I made my family only listen to In Flames for a week. But again, it just all goes with the story. It all goes with, you know what I mean? Like looking back on it, I don't resent or regret or anything. Like it's all just a part of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that it worked out the way it did, and that you're now my American Swede friend. You're just like the rockin', I don't know. It's so wild to know that you're in Flames. That's cool. Congrats I think it's cool that you worked so hard and achieved something that you, like you said, didn't feel very possible even. And now everything else but got easier because you're better. Well done, Tanner.
Thanks, bud. Yeah, I mean, again, it's nice to like have the opportunity to challenge yourself to a point where you can like prove to yourself, hey, I'm like capable of this kind of stuff.
I agree, because it's hard. It's easy to lose sight of that. It's easy to get too deep.
Yeah, or just like I think a lot of people like are, what's the word for it? Like, you know, there's a lot of self like doubt. And I've never had that until maybe the past couple of years, but like I've never really had it too much. I've always am really desperate for opportunities. I'm really desperate for like this new band or this new teching or whatever. I'm so willing to do it that I look past my capabilities and I just like, oh yeah, I can do it. Yeah. And I think that could be dangerous, but it could be smart as well if you can back it up.
Hey man, you're proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On a less serious note, can I give you a quote and you tell me who says it?
Yeah.
I hope I just didn't devalue the serious thing you just said. That wasn't my intention. So I hope that's okay.
No, but is this like a funny thing or like, am I guessing who it is?
You'll know as soon as I say it.
Okay.
Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines wedding as the melding of two metals. Yeah, I almost messed it up. Michael Scott, baby. He's got a cardboard cut on Michael Scott behind him. That's one of my favorite Michael Scott's lines. Do you know that episode, that part where he does that?
Yeah, when he's at the wedding and he has like 50 cue cards and he just starts going through Merriam-Webster's.
Well, he meant to say wedding instead of welding. And he's like, Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines wedding as, you know, the melding of two metals or something.
Oh, wow. Until you told me that right now, I did not catch that he actually was just giving the definition for welding.
Yeah.
That is such an uncomfortable episode, and Bob Vance is not having it at all.
God, it's such a good episode.
So good.
All right. Well, thank you, Tanner, for dropping by and contributing to this episode. I'm hoping to do more of these in the future. So start thinking of stories. Start thinking of stories, and we'll always have you back.
Yeah, I'll write down a little Post-it note of all the stories.
Okay, sounds good. All right, later, man. Hey guys, we have got Michelle calling in all the way from Australia. Thank you so much for joining me last minute and during the holidays.
You're so welcome. Thanks for calling me. This is fun.
If you want to know more about Michelle, we've already done a full episode. She was actually on here with one of the artists she works with. They go by the name of Rule, also from Australia. And it's a really good episode. They talk about the relationship and kind of how they work together. And she, like me, is a fellow music photographer. So, of course, I'm a supporter. But today, with story time, I just get to listen to you today. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, I was so excited when you were like, tell us a story from tour. And, so many stories that are like, I love touring. So most of the stories that I have are, you're traveling exotic places and you're in cities you've never been before. But I was like trying to reflect on something that was a bit more frustrating, because I think we sometimes can like glorify what touring is like. There's like shitty parts of touring as well, or even shitty parts of being music photographers, I think sometimes. So there was a story that came to mind that was very frustrating. And it's the type of thing that I like to teach actually now that I'm in a mentoring space about, I guess, problem solving. And if you get into issues like this, understand that it happens to all of us, and to try and keep you cool. I didn't really in this instance, so maybe but so anyway, the story starts that Rule, the artist that I was working with, I'm actually wearing his merch today because I took these photos, but randomly I was wearing it when you called, so that's hilarious. So anyway.
It looks cool. Tie-dye too.
Merch, actually. Rule was lucky enough to support Shawn Mendes on Shawn's Australian tour in 2019. And so he was doing 2 shows. And I can't remember if it was the first or the second show, but it was the first time we'd done like big arena show as well. So really new for us. And we got familiar with the security and kind of where we could shoot and where we couldn't shoot, because Shawn has a section kind of in the very, very front that's like taped off that no one was allowed to kind of walk through. You could only shoot from the sides. And so, or you could only kind of pass through the sides, I guess. So for Rule, we were like, we don't need to be restricted. There's no pyrotechnics. There's no issue with us being in the front. So we kind of spoke to security and said, is it okay if we shoot through this section just for Rule? Because he's supporting, he's only playing for like half an hour before. Got it all cleared. And probably I think I started from that section and then I ran up to the back of the arena to get some great, big stadium kind of shots. And then when I was coming up to the front and I tried to pass through that area, 2 of my colleagues, so there was Joel, who's Rule's videographer, and another friend of mine, Jaden, who was doing video that night, they walked through and I kind of tried to walk behind them to go into that section. This security guard just pops in front of me, literally shirt fronts me, body tags me. And I was like, oh, no, and I'm pointing to Rule. And so Rule's still singing during this moment. And I'm like, I'm shooting for Rule. And he's just waving his fingers, you can't be there. And I'm showing him my pass. And in that instance, I always try and calmly, hey, just so you know, I'm shooting for this artist, really trying to calmly explain why I'm meant to be there. And all of a sudden, he just pushes me in the middle of my chest out of the area. And I I was like, what the fuck do you think? I just think I was so shocked that he physically pushed me. I was just...
As you should be.
So angry. Also, too, I'm one of those people that I don't ever like to think what's happened to me is gendered. I'm actually I'm pretty glass half full, probably just a miscommunication. In this instance, I think because my 2 colleagues had just walked before me, it just felt really gendered. And I think that's why I got so angry. Those types of experiences for me have been few and far between where I've really felt I guess, a real discrimination or something that I felt was really unfair. So I just saw red and I wasn't coping. And so I'm pretty sure Joel even said to him, no, she's cool or something. And then I ended up going over to the head security guard who we'd already spoken to and said, hey, this guy has just pushed me. And I was almost on the verge of tears, which, if I'm in that state, because it takes a lot for me to get there. I was just so shocked. Yeah. So he came over and had to have a word to him and said, no, they're cool. And, this is minutes have gone past. So, I can't do my job in that instant. You're taking it could be a whole song to try and get this.
You can't shoot and argue. What's wrong with you?
Exactly. And we've already got limited time. So it's a short set and stuff. So it was just incredibly frustrating. It was eventually sorted. And every time I walked through there, I just glare at him, just make sure that he knew that I was so pissed off. One of those moments. And I remember afterwards we were talking about it backstage and the guys actually said to me, I think that was because you're a chick. They were I really think that he thought you weren't meant to be there. And it just made me so angry because like I said, I never like to assume that. And I really I'm really assertive and I really, try to just not to give people grace. And I don't like to assume those things. But in this instance, it really felt like this. And I also have to say, this wasn't anything to do with Shawn's security guard. This was venue security. Shawn's security were so lovely and accommodating and took us everywhere. this was venue security, very, very separate from Sean. So just in case that, like, don't want there to be any misunderstanding.
You don't want like a fan base to get a hold of this. And like, to Twitter we go.
No, it was definitely venue security who probably just wasn't briefed properly or whatever. So yeah, very, very frustrating.
Oh man, I can't even imagine. And you went through all the like perfect. I feel like a lot of the stories I'm like, I don't know how to handle this, but this one I'm like, oh, I understand just because I've been there to an extent. I've been body checked, I guess. Hip hop sometimes gets a little crazy too. I was going to say, like, you went through all the correct things. You're like, here's my laminate. I think the mistake, you need to wear a shirt with Rules merch next time. And then that'll...
What? Always wear a black t-shirt that has Rule. And I think would have been one of the Asia tours, or maybe the tour we just came off or something. I most likely would have been wearing Rules merch. It's like something that we always... Yeah. And the other thing too is like, I'm always want to introduce myself at the start to kind of avoid this, because I've had issues in the past. You go to a new venue, they don't know who you are. They don't see some new chick, she's popped up. They don't, if I'm saying that I want to go on stage or whatever. So I really try and make a point of making sure we know where we can go, make it all, it's all clear so this doesn't happen. So, but I guess,
you're proactive.
Yeah, really proactive. But I guess in his defense, it's a huge arena show. Like, it's not like a venue where Rules venues would go, maybe be between 500 and maybe 5,000. I think that's the biggest venue with 5,000 in Australia. So it's a little bit different than a, 30 or 40,000 arena, and they've got so much more to deal with. So slightly can see where he's coming from, but also very annoying and just prevented me doing my job.
I was trying to look up a term while you're finishing that up because I wanted to use it, but I don't know if you, like, when I'm saying something on here, I'm like, okay, make sure that's the correct thing. And the term I wanted to use was peacocking, which is more regards to men, but that's not how I wanted to use it. I wanted to say, like, sometimes when there's a big venue like this and you're shooting or you need to be memorable, I tried it. Like, for me, it's because I'm bald and kind of unique. I give them like they remember me, but I'm wondering if you think that people ever remember a certain thing about you, like, oh, not just the lady that's shooting, but the lady with the, right now it would probably be your hairstyle. Honestly, it's pretty memorable. But
at the time I didn't have that, so I don't know. Yeah, you're right though. Something that makes you a little bit more memorable. I think it's really difficult in that instance because, like, you speak to the head of security and then has 40 guys. They change positions at certain times as well, so it's probably like a totally different person that was there. But yeah, it's really frustrating when that happens. And but like I said before, I like to kind of tell those stories because it happens to everybody, and I think it's really good to understand that it's not personal, because I know some people take it really.
Yeah, they get really angry or feel like they've been personally wronged. It does feel bad.
Even with the gendered stuff, like I definitely know stories, there's a lot of female shooters that I know that have horror stories about it, and it really does feel like, gender discrimination sometimes. But I try to give young photographers like the tools to be really assertive and to stand your ground. You have the right pass, just be really calm, try not to get angry. I tell you what, it flew out the window that day. I'm like, fuck you.
It's like when they're training you for the plane crash, we're like, yo, this plane's crashing. I'm out the window before we hit the ground running. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all the training in the world can't prepare you for those moments where you, like you said, see red.
Pushes you.
Yeah.
Like, I just think everything it's like all bets are off. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Shit just hit the fan. Well, I appreciate you sharing the story because it's easy to get lost in what did you say, glamorizing or, talk. It is too. You get to travel around, you do get to go to exotic places, but there are the days where you're like, fuck, God damn it. I just want to work.
Make you feel really, small and insignificant in the moment as well. So I do like to share those stories as well, because it's not all glamour, and it's just, I think, having the knowledge and the skills to kind of work through that situation and try not to get angry like I did.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on here today and sharing a quick story with everybody. I'm excited to throw this episode together and hopefully do more in the future. So it's nice to have you.
Anytime you need a quick story, you can call me.
All right, deal. All right, Michelle, have a good rest of your holiday and a happy new year. And I look forward to the next time we get to chat.
Hopefully next year, fingers crossed, if Omicron fucks off and we can come over, we should be there either February or March.
Yeah, let's hang IRL. That'd be sweet.
Yes, I would love that so much.
All right, Casey, welcome to the podcast. I just want to say I'm very happy to have you on here.
Thanks, bud. Happy to be here.
Good friend, longtime listener, first time caller.
Yeah, exactly.
And Casey was one of the good enough friend of mine to hang out with me on the holidays and take some time to share with us an embarrassing or just like an interesting story through his touring career. And you've been touring now for like 15 years?
Close to it, yeah.
You count COVID or don't count COVID? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a weird one. Because I actually had a tattoo I wanted to get commemorating like a certain length of time for touring, but like COVID kind of fucked it up. Now I don't know if it counts.
You just do like 15 years parentheses plus COVID.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, it's cool because we toured together in an RV. We've toured together on buses. And now you tour. I mean, I think the story today you're telling is from like a multiple bus tour, right?
Yeah. Probably the biggest tour that I ever did. But yeah, you and I kind of came up together at the same time, which was cool. I feel like we kind of grew together, went our separate ways in the industry, but always found each other somewhere in the world on the road.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Casey did. He's a very talented wood. What do I call it? Wood person who does woodcraft.
Woodworker. Yeah, I don't know.
Woodworker. He made my table, 2 tables. I got 2 tables. Yeah. Damn, I didn't kitchen table. Remember? I
don't remember. I've built so many things. I don't know who has what anymore.
I have your old kitchen table in my place because you just built a new one and we bought it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So talented guy. And let's I don't know. Where's this story take place? Start us off. Let's hear it.
So this story, it's not embarrassing, more of a just completely caught off guard and panicked. And funny enough, it was with Panic at the disco. So this was in 2018 on Pray for the Wicked tour. And we are in LA at the Staples Center. It's like the biggest show of the tour, like the most hyped up.
All their friends are there.
Yeah. All the management's there, record label, everyone that could be there is there.
The pressure is on.
Yeah. So it's the biggest show of the tour. A little backstory on it. Dan, drummer for Panic, we'd been going through a bunch of head changes and different setups prior to the tour, testing out a bunch of different sounds and everything. So,
and a head is like a part of the drum, right? What's a head change? What is that?
It's the part of the drum that the drummer actually hits with the stick. So there's all kind of different models and variances with, we got his decision dialed in for what he wanted to play for the tour. And so when it comes to his kick drum, generally every drummer plays with a little impact patch. It's where the beater of the kick drum pedal hits the kick drum. And Dan decided he didn't like the tone of having an impact patch on there, even though we're playing in arenas, which no one would ever notice, right?
Because it's like this big. It's like a small part of the drum on the part that faces the drummer, or does it face the audience?
No, it faces the drummer. So it's the part where his pedal actually hits the drum.
Yeah, you don't even see it.
No, but it's for durability, basically. So Dan decided that tour he didn't want to play with an impact patch on there, like the tone without it. But in an arena, you're not going to hear the difference, right? And so we're, a few songs into the set at the Staples Center. The song ends and Dan very calmly gets on his talkback to me, his microphone, and he goes, "Hey, Casey, I think I broke my kick drum head." And I was like, I'm immediately hear that and I'm freaking out. I'm like, what? And he's like, "Can you just grab some tape and maybe come up here?" So from where I sit during Panic's set, I can't see Dan. So everything I have of him is on a video feed on my work box. I have a monitor with like 4 different video feeds.
Of all his different drum parts, or like you basically
of
have
him
like
from different angles, basically. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So I run up on stage and I look, and his kick drum beater is through the head and it's stuck inside and it pulls out and it's just completely ripped open, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, gaff tape's not going to fix this. Like, there's no way.
You broke the whole thing.
Yeah. And he's like, oh shit. So I had to run off stage, we're in an arena, by the way. So I had to go find my drum cases where I have extra heads. I grabbed my drill and it has a bit on there to change heads quicker. So I grabbed that stuff, run back on stage. And meanwhile, Dan is talking to Brendan in his talk back saying, "Hey, I need you to like freestyle for a couple minutes and just talk."
Like buy some time for him to get this switched up. Oh, wow.
I blacked out during this whole thing. I don't even remember this.
Like anxiety is so high. You're like just went into panic mode almost.
Yeah, just freaking out. And so I grab a new head, get back up there. And by the way, Dan's riser is like 8 feet in the air, his drum riser. So I have to climb up on the riser. It was like a pit crew for like NASCAR. And so I'm up there with a drill. He's like holding the one head. I'm like taking everything off, handing it to him. And he's handing me the other stuff, putting it back on, not even trying to tune it, just getting the head on so he can just play the show. And Brennan's got the crowd going doing something. He's such a good front man that like, I don't think the crowd even knew what was going on. He was just like, just started talking for a few minutes. And so finally get it back on, get off stage. And the rest of the crew is like coming over and patting me on the back and telling me like, oh my God, that was so fast. And I'm like, I don't remember any of it besides Dan talking to me so calmly that it was broken. I ran off stage and came back and it was like over. But it was like craziest moment because with guitarists or anything, if they break something, they can walk over to their techs and be like, hey, I need a new guitar, or this broke. Can you fix this? The drummer's stuck there. He can't go anywhere. Yeah. And especially something like a kick drum, that there's no way you can play around that without having a kick drum.
Yeah, there's no quick fix.
So it's an integral part of playing the drums is having the kick drum. So that was probably the gnarliest thing I've ever experienced on tour during the biggest show of my career, in front of the most people ever, with the amount of industry people. And that was the other thing. So the one of the heads of Remo that make the drum heads was there that night. And I'd been talking to him earlier in the show. So I see him after and he's apologizing for what happened. And I was like, oh, no, definitely not your company's fault. Like Dan wanted to play without an impact patch. And this is the consequence of that.
I love that story. I love that you probably have so many of these stories, and I just never hear them from my friends because I feel like on tour you have so many things that happen. It's just so dense. You just can't share everything.
Oh, for sure. That's probably, I mean, stuff like that happens often, little things breaking and stuff, but there's definitely some gnarlier stories you probably can't talk about. I mean, way more intimate stuff that's funny.
We found the balance.
Yeah. I have another great story. I don't mind calling this person out because I think it'd be pretty funny.
Okay, cool. But wait, before we go to it, can I just say something that I was thinking about during your story? Is that all right?
Yeah.
I think the cool part about it is we found a thing that somebody who's so experienced and good at this that still tripped them up. Like somebody like you that still made this, you know, it still caught you off guard. And I'm sure early in your career, like 10 years ago, there was so many more things that could put you in this space of freaking out because you just never dealt with them before. And maybe they weren't to this level because the stakes weren't quite so high, but it's wild to hear like even somebody who's been doing this for 15 years, once in a while, you've got, you know, a drum head explode. Yeah, it's just cool. I love hearing it.
I think coming up, every drummer or tech experiences breaking something on a drum kit during the show.
It gets that panic feeling.
Yeah, most other things you can probably get through a song or two or the set even. If you break a cymbal or break a stand or even a snare head, like you usually have a backup snare that you can just toss on and, you know, it takes 30 seconds.
And that's common.
That's very common, yeah. But something like a kick drum doesn't happen often. And when it does, it's catastrophic.
You just have to have a whole nother drum set ready to go.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was a learning moment for both of us because Dan plays an electronic pedal as well. And so we ended up sampling his actual kick drum and loading that sample onto his digital pedal, basically.
It's like a backup.
Yeah. In case there ever was another failure, we could just switch it over to that sound and he could have a kick drum sample.
Yeah. It happens once. That's your learning experience. And if it happens again, now you've got it covered. And that's why, I don't know, that's why we got people like you solving these problems and not somebody else who's like, whoops.
Also, I ended up talking to Remo's rep that was there that night. And I gave him an idea to make basically like a 12 or 14 inch kick patch in case you break a kick drum head, you could slap it on that. I think they ended up making it. They probably made some money off that, and I never got a piece.
Oh, wow. You're retired now, right?
I should be.
All right, let's hear the other story. Let's hear it. Did it just come to you?
It did, because you were asking, we were texting earlier, you're asking for embarrassing stories, but I guess, I don't know if I've just blocked mine out of embarrassing ones of myself because they're embarrassing, but I remember one very clearly of an old tour manager of Pierce the Veils. We're in Europe. So we're in Brussels around, I don't know, 2012 or 13, something like that. And our tour manager had missed the first week of tour because I think he was getting married or on his honeymoon or something like that.
Yeah.
So our guitar tech at the time, Matt Jara, who eventually became the tour manager, he was in charge for like the first week. And then the second week, our actual tour manager showed up. And we're in Brussels on a day off. And we all go to the Delirium Bar, which is like a very popular spot for everyone on tour to go.
You can buy that beer in the States. It's got the pink elephant and they own like a whole alleyway in Belgium. It's pretty cool.
It's a rad bar. So we ended up there drinking for a while. And I don't know, I take off at some point, head back to the hotel. Everyone else stayed out for a while. They end up coming back to the hotel. In the morning, around, I don't know, 8 a.m. or so, I leave the hotel and I'm going to go grab some breakfast somewhere. And as soon as I leave the front door of the hotel, I see our tour manager walking towards me to enter the hotel. And it's like 8 a.m. I'm like, damn, you're up early or you've been up all night.
Yeah.
And then I slowly notice, I'm like, wait, something's off. He's not wearing any shoes. I'm like, where are your shoes? And it just keeps getting weirder. And I was like, asked me something about my phone, I want to say. He didn't have his phone. And I'm like, what happened? And turns out after the delirium bar, he blacked out, ended up getting mugged, he thinks.
Yeah.
Missing his shoes, his phone, and his wallet.
You get roofied?
Maybe. He woke up in someone's yard, sleeping on their bench in their backyard in Brussels. I don't even know where there's any houses around.
Yeah, there's no backyards in Brussels. I'm like thinking it's like all these big buildings and stuff.
Yeah. So he ends up making it back to the hotel at like whatever hour in the morning, 8 a.m. or so. And we had just met the guy. Like he was our new tour manager. This is the guy in charge of the entire operation on the road. And he comes back with no shoes, no wallet, no phone. Like in another country in Europe. Yeah. So that was our introduction to him, which was pretty funny. But that's a good one that I always love telling.
And then when I was talking to Loni, that is a great story. When I was talking to Loni, one of the stipulations, I was like, you got to make sure you tell your own story. And, I think this is the perfect example of, although it's mostly his story, it's really yours, because going into a tour or going into any job, I can't think of another job in the world where somebody could have this happen to them and then be like, all right, back to work. And everybody's like, all right.
What other industry or job do you keep that job after that happening?
What happened? Did they just power through that next day? How'd they do?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the details of, I'm sure he had to get another phone somehow, because a tour manager, you can't really tour manage without a phone.
Yeah. Or shoes.
All of his credit cards, his wallet, everything gone. I couldn't even imagine being in that situation of being overseas on tour and having nothing the next day. All your cards are gone, your ID, your shoes. You got no shoes.
Yeah. You can't walk.
Wild. Yeah.
That is wild. Well,
I'm glad. And he still had a job the next day, which is kind of crazy too.
That's a reflection of the artist. Unacceptable guys. No, I'm just kidding. That is a good story. I like that. I like how when people start to tell stories on here, like Lonnie's first story was all right, and then his second story was like 1/10 the time, but it was way better because it was. And I feel like it just came to him while he was telling. He was like, and you just kind of get into it. And I also like what you said about blacking out all your embarrassing stories. I agree. I think I just forget about all the bad things.
Yeah, I just push them out of my memory because I'm like, God, that was so embarrassing. I don't want to ever think about that again.
Yeah, you learn from it and you just take the lesson and then you forget the reason why you have that lesson. You're like, okay, I just got the good stuff and I'm out of here.
Yeah, got rid of the trauma part.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Casey. Last question, obviously, shower shoes or no shower shoes?
Oh, never.
Never, ever.
Never.
Never,
I feel
ever.
like being on tour, you end up developing quite a resilient immune system just because you basically live on top of people, for
literally
weeks at a time. And so I feel like anything that's in a shower is not going to affect me at all. Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Love to hear it. All right, man. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in real life. Hopefully COVID will go away soon so we can all hang out.
All right. Well, good to see you, dude.